In the sprawling, concrete heart of Moscow, under the watchful gaze of a million silent windows, a shadow war is being fought. It doesn't unfold on a distant battlefield with tanks and artillery, but in the quiet, unguarded spaces of everyday life. The stairwells, the parking garages, the very homes of Russia's most powerful men. Almost overnight, a chilling pattern emerged, one that sent tremors through the highest echelons of the Kremlin. High-ranking officers from the GRU, Russia's formidable military intelligence agency, started getting gunned down. These weren't just any officers, they were the architects of Russia's foreign intelligence operations, the keepers of its most sensitive secrets. Men who believed themselves to be untouchable. The assassinations were brazen, executed with terrifying precision, not in contested territory, but in their own homes in the heart of Moscow. The message was clear and brutal. No one is safe. The fortress has been breached. Is this a series of random, albeit sophisticated crimes? Or is it a sign of something far more dangerous? A hidden purge, a power struggle, or a foreign campaign so effective it has reached the inner sanctum? The Kremlin is racing to control the narrative, to bury the truth before it tears the regime apart from within. Here's what we know just happened. The timeline of this shadow war begins to sharpen on February 6, 2026. The target is Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, the first deputy head of the GRU. A man who lived his life in the shadows, now thrust into a fatal spotlight. He is shot and killed inside his own apartment building. The official account from investigators paints a picture of audacious infiltration. They claim a fake food courier, using a popular delivery app as his cover, gained access to the supposedly secure building. The attack was brutally efficient. The assassin ambushed Alexeyev in the stairwell, a known blind spot in building security. He hit him twice, but Alexeyev, a seasoned military man, didn't go down without a fight. He fought back. The struggle was brief and desperate, ending only when the killer fired a third time, ensuring the general was dead. The assassin then vanished back into the Moscow night, leaving behind a dead spy master and 1,000 questions. Within hours, the FSB, Russia's internal security service, announced a breakthrough. They claimed the suspected shooter had already fled the country, boarding a flight to Dubai. In a rare display of international cooperation, they reported he was detained by UAE authorities and promptly flown back to Moscow. They even provided a name, Lyubomir Korba, but the details surrounding him were sparse, almost surgically clean. Who was he? A professional hitman? A foreign agent? A disgruntled patriot? The official file was a void, a blank slate for a story the Kremlin wanted to tell. The FSB also mentioned 2 accomplices. One was reportedly apprehended in a Moscow suburb, his identity and role left undisclosed. The other, they claimed, had managed to escape and cross the border into Ukraine, a detail that seemed deliberately designed to point the finger of blame directly at Kiev. Predictably, Kiev issued a swift and categorical denial, dismissing the accusation as a baseless provocation, another chapter in the Kremlin's long-running disinformation playbook. Western intelligence agencies, meanwhile, offered their own theories. This was a classic decapitation strategy, an attempt to cripple Russia's command and control by eliminating key figures. But the official narratives felt incomplete, a thin veneer over a much deeper and more complex reality. Because the assassination of General Alexeyev wasn't an isolated incident. It was the bloody crescendo in a symphony of violence that had been playing for over a year. Since late 2024, a disturbing number of top-ranking security and military officers have been killed in or near Moscow, each death more audacious than the last. The targets were not random. They were all men of influence, men with access to the state's most guarded secrets. In December 2025, Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvarov, another high-ranking GRU officer, was killed by a powerful car bomb planted under his vehicle. The attack occurred in a quiet residential neighborhood, shattering the illusion of safety for the elite. Before that, General Igor Kirillov, head of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical protection troops, was eliminated by a booby-trapped scooter left near the entrance to his building. A low-tech method with a high-impact result, proving that even the most mundane objects could become instruments of death. And the list goes on. Yaroslav Moskalik, a key figure in military procurement, was also killed in a car bombing. The pattern is brazen, targeted, and terrifyingly close to home. Each attack demonstrates a sophisticated level of surveillance, planning, and execution, suggesting the assassins knew their targets' routines intimately. The question echoing in the silent corridors of power is one that even insiders are afraid to ask aloud. How are Russia's best protected officials, men surrounded by layers of state security, being so easily exposed and eliminated in their own stairwells and driveways? The security apparatus, the very foundation of the state's power, appears to be failing at the most fundamental level. The official line points outward, blaming foreign agents, specifically Ukraine and its Western backers. But beneath this official certainty, cracks are beginning to show in the facade of the regime. The paranoia is palpable. There is growing anger and resentment within the military ranks over staggering battlefield losses. A sense that the lives of soldiers are being squandered by an out-of-touch command. This is compounded by immense resource strain. The war effort is bleeding the economy dry, and whispers of corruption and mismanagement are growing louder, turning into open accusations in military circles. And then there are the quiet purges. Reports have been trickling out for months about unreliables within the GRU and other security services being sidelined, arrested, or simply disappearing. A silent cleansing of anyone whose loyalty is deemed questionable. The timing of Alexeyev's murder is also deeply unsettling. It came just days after his direct superior, the head of the GRU, had met with US and Ukrainian officials in Abu Dhabi for secret back-channel peace talks. Pro-war voices in Moscow immediately began hinting that the assassination was a deliberate plot by internal hardliners to derail any potential negotiations and ensure the conflict continues. A warning shot fired not at an enemy, but at their own. Then came the whispers online. Leaks began appearing on anonymous Telegram channels, questioning the official story. The rushed announcement of the suspect's capture, the unusually swift extradition from the UAE, a country not known for its rapid cooperation with Moscow, and the complete silence on a motive. It all felt too neat, too convenient. The unusual movement of the detainee through the UAE raised more red flags. Was he a real assassin, or a pawn in a more complex game? A fall guy delivered to provide a quick, clean answer and shut down further inquiry? The lack of any declared motive from the FSB was deafening. This leaves us with a spectrum of terrifying possibilities. The most straightforward explanation is that these are retaliation operations by a foreign power. But others whisper of something far more insidious: pre-crisis house cleaning. A ruthless campaign by one Kremlin faction to eliminate rivals and consolidate control ahead of a major political shift. An imminent power grab. Or, the most destabilizing scenario of all, this is the beginning of a slow-motion coup, a civil war within the intelligence services, with factions turning on each other. Globally, analysts are spooked. The targeted nature of the killings suggests an enemy with an insider's knowledge, which could mean either a catastrophic breach by a foreign agency or a deep internal fracture. Both possibilities are equally chilling. Inside Russia, the official narrative of foreign enemies is met with a mix of public acceptance and private fear. The hushed chatter about cleaning up and traitors is pervasive, but so is the terrifying realization that the state's protectors cannot even protect themselves. If the most guarded minds in Russia, the men who personify the state's power, can be hit at home with such ease, what does that say about the stability of the fortress itself? Is it a fortress at all, or a house of cards? So here's the cliffhanger. If Russia's top intelligence brass keep falling to bullets and bombs in Moscow, and the official answers only create more questions, we are left facing a stark reality. The violence is not random. It is a signal. The question is no longer just who is pulling the trigger. It is what deep betrayal, what catastrophic failure, or what terminal unraveling are Kremlin insiders trying to hide from their own people and from the rest of the world? The silence from Moscow is the loudest sound of all, and what comes next could change everything.